Welcome to Drive the Lightning, the positively charged EV show.
Yes, and we are going to talk about that, EVs, for this one.
Positively charged ones.
It's going to be positive. A couple of things have come up real recently we want to talk about. One, when it comes to EV investing, especially in startups, some things to
Consider.
think about. Yeah, the Tesla Cybertruck. What's up with that? We had a sighting. We're going to talk about the Model T. What could EV makers now learn from the last big explosion of change in transportation, which was the Model T and the assembly line? What could they learn? We learned a lot about the Model T recently, and we're going to share some things that I think are missed opportunities today with the current EV startups. So those are a few things we'll talk about, also affordable EVs. Let's just get right to work.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's talk about investing. If you watch YouTube,
wait, we have to do
and listen to. Oh, we're gonna talk about that in a minute.
Okay.
You want the disclaimer?
Yeah, I like to do it right on the front because the lawyers want me to.
The lawyers. So if you listen to a lot of podcasts that talk at all about investing, you always hear a disclaimer that sounds kind of like this.
We are not financial advisors, and we are in no way qualified to give financial advice.
Yeah.
So don't listen
to us, or the
mute it for the next 30 seconds.
Some of them will even say this is for entertainment purposes only.
If you're watching us and you don't know it's for entertainment purposes only, change the channel.
Or listening.
You don't want to hear anymore.
But here's what they do right after that. They quickly give advice.
Yes.
Which is just, it's almost like, okay, I'm going to be safe legally because I said, listen, I'm not a guy that steals anything. If I do, it's just for fun. And then I steal your car and then they arrest me. And I'm like, well, no, I gave a disclaimer.
Mm-hmm. I said it was just for entertainment.
So I'm not sure why that disclaimer would make somebody think that if somebody who they influence to make a bad investment or withhold themselves from making a bad investment could not consider them partially liable.
But because the disclaimer basically says I'm not a financial advisor, but I'll be playing one on this medium podcast, for the next 30 seconds.
Yeah. So we're not going to do that. Although Sarah just kind of made a disclaimer, we don't have any investment advice to give.
We don't.
So what we're not going to do is say don't listen to us and then give you advice. We won't do that.
No.
But we do want to report on some investment opportunities that we've become aware of recently.
Yeah.
The Aptera solar charged electric vehicle has opened up a new way where you can invest as part of a retirement, as part of an IRA, where you can decide what to invest in. So is that something people should do? I don't know. But it's something that's available. And if you want to read about it, go to aptera.us and read up on it. And of course, make a decision.
Or have your financial advisor review it.
Yeah, but even that's advice. Even you're advising them on who to talk to.
I'm saying
we have
maybe
no
you
advice.
Do that.
No,
you advised them to read about it.
I did not. I said no advice from us.
Busted.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think that's funny.
It's no financial advice. We're just telling you what's
we're
out
spending
there.
too much time.
This has gone too far.
So the other one is Lit Motors. You know, we just recently came across Lit Motors, but like Aptera, they've been in the process of developing their vehicle for a very long time. Now, this is the two-wheeled electric vehicle that uses gyro. Are they called gyroscopes?
Gyroscopy?
The spinning wheels, that balance it so you don't have to put your feet down. It can be completely enclosed. But they've been trying to make this since 2012. There were some interruptions, including a motorcycle accident. We look forward to reporting more about that.
Not with the Lit motorcycle.
I don't believe so.
Not with the gyro motorcycle.
No, it was yeah. But we look forward to bringing you interviews to explain what that's about. But Aptera was like that too. They had stopped long ago, and then they were able to restart. And I started thinking, Sarah, why is it that it didn't work? Why don't they just walk away?
Well, nobody said it didn't work.
Well, no, they weren't able to get it into mass production. And like for Aptera, it'd be like 2007. For Lit Motors, whatever, like 11 or 12 years ago was. But it wasn't able to get to production, so why is it coming back? And I thought about how the U.S. Patent Agency works. When you file a patent on anything, about 20 years is what you would expect that to last. So they're in a place now with two companies that have amazing technology, and I'm assuming very powerful patents on their technologies that could expire in 5 or 10 years or something like that. And if so, somebody else could take those beautiful ideas and pass them up. And that would be a shame.
Yeah.
So it's really the prime time for both Lit Motors and Aptera Motors to see this through to fruition, if they can, to mass production. But if you're interested in investing in Lit Motors, they have a WeFunder campaign going on. And you can go to their website. Just go to litmotors.com, I believe it is, or Google it if you're not sure, and you'll see their investment tab there.
Yeah.
But that's our little bit about
investing.
Yeah. We're not going to say we're not here to advise you and then give you advice. We're not going to do that. But hey, whatever.
Yeah, you do you.
So Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm driving to work yesterday. One of the 4 times, because I went to work, came to the other end of town. I kind of circumnavigated the planet working yesterday. But on the last time, I'm going from the north of Grand Rapids to the south end of Grand Rapids. I get to Division and Burton. If you're from here, you'll know what that is.
I know where that is.
And what do I see when I look to my left? Cybertruck.
Cybertruck.
The Cybertruck.
It was kind of funny because I was working in the garden at that moment and he sent me a picture and I looked at my phone and I went, oh, cool, he saw a DeLorean. And then it wasn't until later when I came in and got cleaned up, I'm like, oh, wait, that's a Cybertruck.
Well, I didn't say it was a great picture, but it was what I could get from the stoplight. I didn't have my glasses on. I
just saw silver.
And anyway, so there's a Cybertruck in our little town here of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So if that's your truck, would you please not call or email us?
Stop it. Stop.
I couldn't be.
We're always interested in your opinions and what you think and what's going on. So feel free to comment below.
We couldn't be less interested, though, in the Cybertruck. Now, this is not negative talk about it as a whole, but Sarah and I could not be less interested.
Well, it's not a good fit for us. But
it's not a good fit really for anybody.
Now that's negative.
Well, it's
not nice.
A big vehicle that does. If you want a really, really, really big vehicle that can do all kinds of amazing things, then it's the Hummer EV, which we're also not interested in. But now, what we would have been interested in, we were very interested in Tesla when they were talking about what the next vehicle could have been, Sarah, which was what?
An affordable EV, an everyman's EV, an EEV.
Right, an EEV. And here is something that Tesla had talked about for a while, sub $25,000 EV that most people could buy that were shopping for new cars. And it didn't happen, and it's not likely to happen for a while now. And that's too bad. I'm sure there's reasons for it, but this is something we learned, and we'll get into more of this later. But one of the things we learned from Henry Ford when we recently toured the museum in Kalamazoo, Michigan, or Hickory Corners, the Gilmore Museum, talking about the Model T. They had a variety of it that was really pretty, and it had some brass bars, and it had fancy stuff like windshield wipers and things like that. And they could build it in like 12 hours. And it cost, I think it was like $800 and some. And Henry Ford says, we've got to get rid of all the extra stuff. And we've got to sell this thing for $300 or so everybody can buy it. So that's what they did. They stripped everything away. You could buy these things as an extra if you wanted windshield wipers and other things that we consider must-haves today.
Right.
But if you just needed a car to get from A to B, you could do it for a couple of $100. And then once they did that and they said, hey, the color's black, as long as you want it in black, you can have it in your favorite color.
Yeah.
As long as it's black. And now they're churning them out at that point every 90 seconds.
Yeah.
Another one's coming off the assembly line. And then what, Sarah? The dealerships had to what? They had to stop.
Right.
Because they couldn't keep up with the orders.
Right.
So this is one of the things that I think is missing from the EV market. Well, I know is because we're EV experts. We shop them, we study them, we know about them, we drive them, have for 4 years, and there's just not really an affordable EV for everybody because they haven't stripped it down to what we need.
Right.
And made a car profitably for them without, I don't need a heated seat. If it's a difference between being able to afford a car or not. Well, it's just one of those things. But that would excite us from Tesla or anybody, really.
Yeah, it's one of the things that really interests us about Aptera because Aptera is focused on the efficiency. Less pieces means more production, less expense, and a longer lasting vehicle. Because that was another thing we learned about the Model T was they last.
They last.
They're still running. The
Because they're
vehicles.
fixable themselves. They're fixable, like the Aptera with the right to repair. You can, if you bought a Model T today, even though it's 100 years old, you'll be able to get it running. It's just spark and fuel. That's it. You'll be able to grease the bearings yourself. The caps are on the outside of the wheel hubs. Just so many little things that mean I can work on this vehicle myself. That just doesn't exist right now in the EV market.
It doesn't. And it was exciting because when we were at the Gilmore Auto Museum, we had the opportunity to be up close and personal with the Model Ts. And one thing that was iterated to us was that these are not restored 100-year-old vehicles. These are 100-year-old vehicles that we're riding in because they are still running. And that, I think, aligns really well with Aptera's vision, that they want a vehicle that will pass down from generation to generation. Not your kids will buy their own Aptera after you. They'll get yours. You'll pass that on to them.
And if you don't have
your
kids, then
grandkids.
we can have yours.
You can
leave
pass it on
us.
to us. We will be your honorary kids.
But there was a couple of car companies that had a shot at it and actually for a short minute had an affordable electric car, but found some way to blow it. And I don't know. We don't know what it takes to run a car company. So I hate to be those people, podcasters or YouTubers that say this company should have done A, B, and C. We don't mean to sound like that. We don't know.
We don't know.
But there was two companies that had affordable EVs here in the United States, and that's the Chevy Bolt,
Yep.
which, by the way, is a great little electric car.
Yeah.
250 miles of range, charges fast enough, not real fast, like 50 kilowatts an hour, whatever it is. I can't remember how they calculate it, but not real fast, but fast enough if you need to charge. And it had room for the regular EV, 4 people tightly or 2 comfortably with gear. And what did they do? They said, well, we're not going to make that anymore. Oh, wasn't that nice? The first time we had a EV you could buy for like 20 grand, and well, we're not going to make that. Claiming they're going to bring it back on their Ultium platform, but they just released the Chevy Blazer on that platform, which is going to cost you 2 arms and 3 legs. The Equinox, which is going to cost you, they claim $30,000, but no way for a while will it be anything under $40,000, I don't think. So the affordable EV has died as far as GM is concerned. Ford never made an effort. Other than the compliance car, which was the Ford Focus EV,
Right.
which they put no effort into. Nobody even knows about it because they refused to advertise it because they didn't want to sell it, like the Chevy Spark EV. And we can go on all day naming these compliance cars from the 90s.
Right.
But the other one is one that we drive.
The Nissan Leaf.
Right, which was somewhere around $20,000, I think was the 2022 model. And what's the problem, Sarah? Isn't that an affordable EV?
Well, I mean, it could be. Part of the problem was it was still using CHAdeMO, which is being phased out.
That's it.
So you're going to hesitate to buy a new EV that you might not be able to charge in 5 years.
And to get usable range on the Leaf, it's not going to be the base model. Now, the Bolt, that was true. The base model would get you 250 miles of range. The Nissan Leaf, the base model, gets you maybe 140 or something. And to get to over 200, you have to pay a lot of money to get the SL. And even then, for whatever reason, here in the United States, the CHAdeMO charger never really took off beyond the Nissan Leaf. And everybody else is using CCS, or they're using NACS, or CCS with a NACS adapter, NACS with a CCS adapter. There's no real viable adapter for the CHAdeMO fast charging port. There's one that just hit the market for well over $1,000, but it's like a big bulky computer that you have to charge and everything. It's really not a usable piece of hardware. So Nissan Leaf had the shot at an affordable EV and found a way to blow it by just not switching out the charge port. We would have bought another Leaf beyond R16.
And we love the 16
It's a great car
for what it is, but
yeah.
we know that's going to have a end of life coming up, and we'll replace it with something else.
But it's not going to be a Leaf.
The Leaf is not
Yes,
viable.
The
for
Nissan
us.
Leaf is not a viable vehicle in our opinion. So it's, whether it was affordable or not really doesn't matter. So it's a big hole in the electric vehicle market that
Yes.
we hope will be filled by somebody with some vision
Yep.
pretty soon.
So the next thing we want to talk about is what current automakers could learn from how Henry Ford from the Model T. But before we do that, we want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Tom Buschow, for the coffee. And thank you so much, Bob Newchow, for the coffee. We are so grateful, and we really appreciate it very much.
Yeah, so let's talk about Model T. Sarah and I did a mini deep dive into this recently, visiting the museum, as we mentioned earlier. And there's things about the Model T that should be incorporated today, in our opinion, for what it's worth, zero, in EV makers and EV startups. One of the things that really blew our mind is, do we need 0 to 60 in, I don't know, even like our BMW i3 is like 8 seconds. Way too fast. I'd never need to go that fast. The Leaf is like 10 seconds. That's plenty fast enough.
And the Model T would go 0 to 60 in, never.
Yeah,
It was never meant to go that fast. It was a very safe vehicle.
So you do need some speed these days to get on the highways and up to speed, but are we spending money on motors that do more than we really need in an EV? So that's one thing I thought was worth talking about. Another thing is versatility. So we rode in a Model T that was set up to sit 5, but right next to us was a Model T that was set up as a cab. And it was used in Mexico City, and they had 6 seats in the back, bench seats facing each other.
Yeah.
Some Model Ts are set up as trucks with a truck bed instead of seats, and others are snowmobiles.
Yeah, like sled. They have sleds on them.
Skis on the front, tracks on the back. And then let's say even that's not your jam. Well, you could pull the body panels off of this and use it as a tractor. You can also run implements off of the drivetrain.
They did. Like they would use it like a sawmill for the farm.
They'd pop off a tire, put a belt around the wheel and around this, and they could run a whole sawmill off the Model T. And they mentioned to us, Sarah, that the aftermarket kicked in immediately, which meant everybody was making accessories for the Model T the minute it came out.
Yeah.
Because it's accessible.
Yeah.
Cars today are not accessible.
Right. And one of the innovative ones that we got to experience was they had a manifold cooker that was made to sit in the engine of the Model T.
Right.
So when people were driving, when it was time to stop, they would get out for their picnic, and everybody who was in that group would have cooked something in their manifold cooker, and then they'd sit down and have a picnic lunch, courtesy of their
they'd
Model
take
T.
them off the manifold and they would hook them on the bumpers.
Yeah.
And then you'd have this buffet across the front bumper of your Model T. It's just amazing things like that are just mind-blowing. They'd have sheets that would say, okay, if you're cooking corn, you need to drive 15 minutes. You know, how far you should drive.
Model T recipes.
Recipe books. So the versatility, affordability by taking away some of the stuff that's just not necessary. It's nice having a heated steering wheel like I have in my Leaf.
It's a luxury.
It's a luxury having heated seats. And if I can afford it, I may choose to have those options, but I would love to have a choice that's stripped down to affordable.
Yeah.
Like the Model T did early on, made a car for everybody. No one seems to have done this yet, and we hope that somebody will learn these lessons from 100 years ago.
Yeah, it was interesting to me when we were shopping for our first EV. I said, because I do like a little luxury in my life, and the car that we had prior to our EV had heated seats. And I said, I really like my heated seats in the wintertime. Is that something? And he said, all EVs have that. And at the time that we were shopping, they all did. So it's just kind of but if you would have said, well, you can get an EV with heated seats that has a 100-mile range, or you can get an EV that's stripped down from its fancy stuff, but you can go 250 miles, I would have taken the second choice, obviously, for practical reasons.
Yeah, that'll never be a choice between that and that, but that'd be great.
It would have been.
I would take less luxury, for longer range.
For more practicality.
If you look at the Model, the Model T doesn't get 200 miles range.
No.
But that's the other thing, though. Do I need a humongous battery or not? Well, it depends on my circumstances. But to have the choice to choose a battery that would get me 250 miles of range, and if I can afford it and have the need for it, maybe one that'll go 1,000 miles, like the Aptera solar charged EV hopes to do in the future. But to have those choices, and if you can't give me the choices, just make a stripped down vehicle. You know who tried to do this recently? Was Mitsubishi with the iMIV. Remember that?
Yeah.
No creature comforts. I think even
Hideous.
the windows were on a crank. It was very ugly. It went the miles it went. It got there when it got there. And they stopped making it. Of course, because people could almost reach in their pocket and buy it.
Right.
So anyway, that's our 1 or 2 takes on that.
Well, I got one more take on that because it was interesting. I was talking to Paul at the Gilmore Auto Museum. He was kind enough to give Chad and I a ride in a Model T, 100-year-old Model T.
Even across the grass.
He's a Model T owner. No, we did not go across the grass.
We did go across the grass.
And it was interesting talking to him because he asked, what media outlet we were from. We told him we're from Drive the Lightning, where we focus on EVs. And he said, well, I'm 70-some years old, and I was born and raised on internal combustion engines, and that's always what I'll drive. So I said to him, because we were enjoying a fun conversation, I said, so Paul, do you think back in the time that the Model Ts were introduced, there was somebody who said, I'm 70 years old, I've driven a horse and carriage my whole life, that's all I'll ever drive. And he said, absolutely. So imagine if everyone had felt that way, we'd still be using horses and carriages, and there might be something to be said for that. But anyway, I thought it was interesting, the progression of change and how although things change, some things never change.
There's always some resistance.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was a fun conversation.
There has been some good news recently on affordability of used electric vehicles. It seems that the cost of used electric vehicles has almost evened out with the cost of used combustion engine used vehicles. There was a huge disparity for a while, but now if you were to go on, let's say, a website that sells these things, and Carvana, for example, not sponsored, although we would take their money if they wanted to give it to us.
Yes, we would be happy to be sponsored by Carvana.
Electric cars.
Or other.
You can find decent electric cars for under $20,000 now. That was not the case before.
Right.
So that's a good news on the EV used market. Things are becoming more affordable. So you might start there if you haven't started your EV journey yet. And if you haven't, why haven't you?
You've been here with Chad and Sarah on Drive the Lightning, the Positively Charged channel. Thanks so much for your time.
You rock. Thank you so much to the members of the channel. You keep the wheels churning on the Positively Charged YouTube channel. And thank you for the mug club. You mugs bought mugs. So these mugs can go back to California to get some more in-person Aptera coverage as soon as they have something worth covering in person that's worth the $2,000 trip. That's what it cost us last time.
Yes, and because we are ramping up to try to go this summer and we haven't quite sold enough, I'm going to be introducing a new exclusive mug and shirt and a few other items if you are interested. Wow. So click the link below and see what is available, and those proceeds we will be applying them to our next trip to California so we can hopefully get the rest of the way. Okay,
so hit the merch tab, merch link when you go into our comments, if you're interested in that. You want to watch another video? Because you should really just binge these.
Oh, you mean them. Sorry.
No,
yes.
Yeah. Let's do this one right here. I think you'll find this is worth your time.
It's one of my favorites.
It's one of my favorites.
It's my absolute favorite of all time.
It's my favorite of all time ever.